Yeah. So today is no World No Tobacco Day, and today I guess you people will take the pledge of not using any tobacco products on from today onwards, because as we see here on World Tobacco Day, take a pledge to quit smoke and stay away from the COVID-19 World No Tobacco Days, which is celebrated on March 31 every year. Provides a perfect opportunity to educate smokers, if anybody there in this team. I hope there are no one, about their high risk and vulnerabilities towards the pandemic situation, right? As we all know that the virus, the COVID virus, which actually affects the lungs, it attacks more faster rate for a deteriorated lungs, right? So smokers here uh, kindly quit it, right? Yeah, so quit Corona, and yeah, many initiatives have taken by many of the companies here, and the World Health Organization is actually the one initiative. So yeah, I think you people will look into that seriously. So moving on towards our subjects here. Last class, I guess we discussed about uh, simple programs related to, yeah, class and objects. Okay. So what do we mean by a class? A class is nothing but collection of member variable and member functions. Always remember, it should always be a member variable. Just a variable, just a function will not do the job for a class. All right. So class is nothing but collection of member variables and member functions. And what do you mean by an object then? So object referred by instances of a class is called as an object. So what do you mean by instances? I have a predefined class. Whenever you create an object, the properties of that particular class will be assigned to object. The question can be, how many objects can I create? Excuse me. So I can create hundreds of objects, right, of a given class. So, okay, the next question is, are all these objects unique? Yes, all the objects here are unique. What are the properties of this object? Excuse me. So, what are the properties of this object? Can I copy one object information to another object? Yes, you can. Can I copy one information of variable to an object? Yes, you can. Can I create duplicate object? Yes, you can. Many objects. Objects has many advantages, right? Whenever you are creating an object, Java will see to that, it will bound to that the object which you are creating will be of a secured one, an encapsulated one, and it will be available to all by default. So objects are public by default. Okay. So care should be taken whenever you're creating any object. It should be public. Why? Because these objects has to be like useful whenever you're creating any of the variables or the instances. All right. So one program was which we spoke about the box. The box had, I think we had created three particular objects. So what are the syntax of an object? Syntax of an object looks in this way, right? Class name, object name, assignment operator, new keyword for the memory allocation, and a constructor box with a bracket. This is actually called as a constructor. We'll discuss about the constructor in detail in the upcoming sessions. So, all right. Do we have any issues with this program which we tried out in the last class? Anybody? Any issues with the session or the class and objects which we discussed in the last class. Do we have any issues here? Anybody having any problem? Kindly raise your hand if you have any issues and if you have any um, questions. All right, I guess we do not have. Moving on. Yeah, we looked into one property of a program here. So basically, we looked into a project or an example based on a rectangle box or whatever it is. We'll see another example here. So looking into this example, which is the main class? Which is the main class? Anybody? Which is the main class? Oh, no interaction today. What happened?
Box demo 2.
Box demo?
Box demo 2.
Box demo 2 will be my main class, all right? Yeah, so we'll look into each cases, what exactly is happening on the other side. Yeah, so execution starts from this main. Execution starts from main program here, main function here. So main string asks box my box 1 equal to new box. So what will happen over here? What will happen over here? So what exactly is this statement? So I have a class which is called as a box, and box have three information. One is for width, one is for height, and one is for the depth. So similarly, I'm naming this as, this is a class, right? So I'm creating an instance, that is object, which is of my box 1, and the other one is my box 2. So these boxes or the objects is actually referring this class for their instance creation. Okay, so here this box name is what? This will be my box 1, and this will be my box 2. My box 2. Then I'm creating another variable which is a double volume. So volume is, it is not belonging to either my box 1 or my box 2. It is a common variable. So a memory location will be created for volume. So the same way, width, height, and depth, the three same required fields will also be reflecting for my box 1 as well as for my box 2. As well as for my box 2. Next statement. So my box 1 dot width. Let's assume this is my W, this is my H, and this is D. Similarly, this is width, height, and depth. Same way, width, height, and depth. So my box 1 dot width is equals to 10. Where will that information go and reside now? So my box 1 width. So here 10 will be saved. Next, my box 1 dot height is 20 and depth is 15. So 20 will be sitting here and 15 will be sitting here. Any doubts here? This is not a master copy. This is the object, and straight away you know that in the objects width, height, depth, we are filling these values. Similarly, for my box 2, width, height, and depth is 3, 6, 9. So 3, 6, and 9 will be residing over here. The next case is volume is equals to my box 1 width, my box 1 height, my box 1 depth. This is perfectly valid statement. I'm multiplying all the three to calculate the volume. All right. So 150 into 2 is 300. So for the first volume, it will be 300. 300 exactly, or another zero should be added? I guess, right? 150 to 200 it is. So 3000. Sorry. Yeah, then followed by this volume needs to be displayed. If you are not displaying it, then what's the use of calculating it? As simple as that. Right? You should have to use once you declare it or once you are creating it. Next is volume equal to my box 2 dot width into height into depth. So what does this say now? This is in turn I'm calculating the other part, right? So if I multiply 9 into 6 into 3, 54 into 3, 162, I guess. Kindly correct me if it is wrong. So the new value of this volume will be now changed to 162. Internal should be inside, fine. So yeah, so next time again I'm redisplaying the same volume. All right. So here, what is the use? The use is pretty simple. I have one class, many instances. I can create hundreds of instances here also. All right. I think you people have followed this. Yeah, 162, some change. As you can see, mybox1 data is completely separate from the data contained in mybox2. This will be one of the best example to show, right? In fact, today's assignment will be on this particular class and objects for this module. All right, so we looked upon how do we declare the objects: name, class name, object name, new, followed by the keyword, the constructor. Next is you can also declare it in multiple ways. This is one line which you can declare it. This is the other one. Box my box, where my box equal to new box constructor. The first line declares my box as a reference to an object of type box, but this line executes my box contain the value null. That means in this case my box will not have anything. It is just an object, but still you have not created anything. You have not assigned any value, right? So next, whenever you initialize with the constructor, then the value instead of null will be utilized over there. So any attempt to use mybox at this point will result to an compiler time error. Here, when you declare this particular case and you're not using this line here, it will result you into a compile time error. The new line allocates an actual object and assigns a reference to the mybox. So after the execution of the second line, that is you're allocating the memory for it. So mybox simply holds the memory address of actual box object. All right. So you can try it out. So closer look here is, as I said, a class with the function is something called as a constructor. I think do we still have here? Okay, not yet. So class variable, new class name. As I said, this will be called as a constructor. A constructor is called whenever an object will be created. Whenever a new object, whenever you are declaring it, a constructor will be called. I think we have a session on the constructor, which is pretty much simple and straightforward, because whenever I want any objects to be pre-assigned before the before any calculation or any change within my objects, I need some value to be put up. So that's where constructor comes into picture here, right? So predefining the values for an object is taking place at the time of constructing, right? When you call the constructor. So this box here gives you the same outway of what we saw. So box my box, what will be the effect? Just a null within the my box object, right? So you need to assign the memory location. When will that happen? By whenever you use the new keyword. So memory location will happen with width, height, and depth, and the box object will be created at this point. Here only the object name will be created, which is having no values or none of the instance variables of the class has been assigned here. In turn, whenever you use it with the new keyword, you will be allotted with the memory space and all the instance variables, and the functionality will also be utilized. All right. So looking into the case here, there might be one question for you which might arise. Why do you need to use a new keyword, right? So it is important that new allocates memory of an object during the runtime. The advantage of the approach is that your program can create as many as few objects as it needs during the execution of a program. However, the memory is not infinite, right? So it is finite. It is possible that a new will not be able to allocate memory sometimes for an object because of insufficient memory. This will create a runtime error, and you know that runtime error may cause you an exception to be raised. So we have seen that, but still in today's world, whatever the memory which a computer system has, it's I can't say it as an infinite, but we have a large amount of memory which can be given for an object, right? We can create millions together of objects whenever you're using. Most of the time, at the client side, the instances or the threads, right? We won't call it as an instance, we call it as a thread. If you people are familiar with respect to the operating system, probably EC people will be knowing about that. So threads are the instances of each process, right? And the process are the instances with respect to the program, right? As I said, now you can see that process will get it from the program, and the threads will get it from the process, right? So each threads is what will be given for each user or each client whenever they are executed, right? So similar to that, we use the new keyword in order to create a particular memory location, and so that an object within the particular object will be created. I think I have made the concept regarding the new keyword correct here. So assigning the object reference variable, it's pretty the same way which we looked into the example above. So I have an object B1 and object B2, and this is, as I said, can I copy contents of one object to another object? Perfectly fine. Why? Because always see to that, is the object compatible with each other. B1 and B2 are compact with each other. Why? Because it is defined by the same class. Whenever you create objects of different class, and if you are trying to assign it with each other, no, it will not take into consideration, because we have a type mismatch within the objects, right? So objects belonging to the same class can be assigned with the contents of each other. You might think that B2 is being assigned as a reference to a copy. It's not a reference, right? So it's the straight the copy, the object referred by B1. You might think that B1 and B2 refer to separate and distinct objects. However, this would be wrong. All right, whenever you're assigning B1 is equals to B2, the assignment of B1 and B2 did not allocate any memory. As you can see, the memory is allocated only to whom? To B1, and the B1's, whatever the address which it is holding, will be stored to B2. That means B1, B2 are now referring to the same box object. All right. So here, what are the advantages? Advantage is nothing but no new memory will be created for the object B2, but in turn, the address which will be assigned for B2, any changes made for the B2 will be reflecting for the main object value. In other words, if anybody changes here, this is the same value which will be seen by B1 as well as B2. Thus, any changes made to the object through B2 will affect the object B1 with its referring. Right? I hope any issues here within this objects related. So this is how pictorially we can see B1 has been created, and B1 was actually assigned with the instance of a class which has with the width, height, and depth. It created a box object. B2 was equated with B1. That means B1's address has been copied to B2. So B2 is also having the same address. Any changes which are made by B2 instances, it can be with respect to width, or it can be with the height, or it can be with the depth. the same changes will be permanent, and the same copy, whenever it is referred by B1, it also see the altered value. Although B1, B2 both refer to the same objects, they are not linked in any other way. The subsequent assignment B1 will simply unhook from the original object. Fine. So if if you don't want to use this B1 object further, you can use this particular case. B1, make it as a null. That means what it's straight away telling that you're unhooking it. That means you're cutting out the connection between the B1 and the object. That now the B1 will be set to the null, but B2 will still pointing to the original object. All right. So next we spoke about all the variables or the instance variables which we saw with respect to reference variables. Next we'll be looking into the methods, right? Introducing with respect to the methods here. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the chapter, it's not only the instance which will be defined by for a class, it's also methods, right? Instant methods will also define the class. In other words, the object has all the freedom to get use of all the methods which are present in a class. All right, it's not only the variable. I can also utilize the methods or the functions which we have in the class. So general form for the method here looks in this way. So type name, type the what data type or the what return type, right? So always remember, whenever you have the use of a function, it's not a declaration. It's whenever you call the function, right? The function body, right, will have its function head which has a return type. This is called as a return type. And in other words, what this specifies is, this is in turn telling us that, oh yeah, whatever the data which this function is sending or returning back to the caller function, it will be of this data type, followed by, this will be the function name, and this will be the parameter list. So what do you mean by a parameter list? Parameter list will be of the instance. It can be some variables or the data which we are sending for the function as a reference, right, for their calculation for this particular method. And it has the body of the method where it can do whatever some valid statements which will be executed. And yeah, the same thing, type specifies the return type by this method, and the name is basically the function name, and the parameter list is yeah, comma separated identifiers or the variables, right? So in this at this time here, we should be knowing about something called as a pass by value and pass by reference. So there are, I'll just give you an outline of pass by value. So this is pass by value, and the other one is pass by reference. So what are the difference between the pass by value and pass by reference? Pass by value is, I just send a dummy value of a dummy value from the calling function to the caller function, right? So dummy values will be sent. So any changes to these variable will not affect the variable, will not affect the variable, or it will not, any changes made to this in this particular place will not be reflected to the original variable, right? But when it comes to the reference here, call by reference, any here we send the address, here we send the value. Yeah, that will be my second thing. So we send the value here, value of who, value of the variable, but here in the reference we send the address, of that particular variable. Whenever you send the address, it will be with respect to the ampersand, because in programming language ampersand refers to the address of the variable. So the first case here, any changes made to the variable will not affect, but any changes made with respect to the reference will affect the variable, right? So the third one is, always be careful whenever you are using the reference, right? Careful whenever you're dealing with, because once the changes is made, you cannot return back. All right, so reference will not have a dummy value, will be with respect to the straight variables, right? That's what I can say. That's about the call by value and call by reference. Methods that have a return type other than void value to the calling routine using the following form, that is return value. In other words, the last executed statement will be of return. If you are sending any value, specify what that value type is. If not, use it as a void here, void function something, some parameter list, right? If you're using void, no need for you people to send any return values. If you are using some data type, you should always return what type of value which you are sending. So it will be a return value. So the next concept is adding a method to a box class. It looks in this way. Same example which we took in the last case, class box, and box has three instance variables, width, height, and depth, and it also have an instance method which is called as a volume. So here what does this do? System.out.println volume is something system.out.println, so which it calculates and which it returns. All right, so let's look into this example for the program which we saw in the last class. So here concept is very clear. So uh, I have to create one particular method inside my class. So here these are the instance variables, as I said, instance variables, and yeah, all the three. Next we have some methods, right? So here the method which I call it as will be of volume, right? Because volume is what I need to look into now, right? So here I'm using a void as my return type because I'm not returning anything from the void. So what does this volume do? Volume, what it does is it will just print out, it will just print that I'm in this particular class and I'm creating, right? So volume of the given object is, okay, so this will be within the quotes because it is a string, and you can use a concatenation operator here, or also you can create another sysout statement specifying that whose volume actually it is, right? So this is length into uh, breadth into, okay, so only two things, I guess, right? So okay, this is area, right? I'm very sorry. So let's make this as area because that won't be an issue. There it was a volume, here we are calculating the area because the last example which we saw was with respect to the area, right? So this is not required. What I'll do is I'll just comment it or in use. So I'm creating two values here. So, okay, so let me take off this. I don't need this. So what am I doing here? I'm creating an object. So I'm inside the main class now. So I'm creating an object, something called as a equal box, where equal box in the sense I'm creating it as a square, right? So breadth I'm making it as a 5, length I'm making it as a 5. Now what I'll do is I'll just call that particular function. How do I call the function? Call it with the object name, right? So equal box dot. Now last time it was only showing me the breadth and length. Now it is also showing me the area. It is also showing me the area. That means I am calling the area. What will this area do? Equal box dot area is, it will go to that particular place, get a value of length, get a value of breadth. It will calculate its value and it will print it. Okay. So like looking into the example here. Uh, So inside main class now, volume of a given object is 25, right? Straight away, I don't need to calculate or do my calculation regarding the area again and again, right? I'm just quitting out few values here, right? So again, what I do is, uh, inside. Okay, instead of inside. Okay, here it was in rectangle object. Now, so I'm in rectangle object now. I'm creating the same object, object name with rectangle, and rectangle's breadth and length value will be 10 and 15, right? So this 10 and 15 will be saving, in turn will be saving in this length and breadth. So what I do is I call the area method for the rectangle, right? So rectangle dot area. So it now calculates the area regarding the rectangle's breadth and length. So executing this statement. So inside the main class now, volume of the given object is 25. In rectangle object now, volume of the given object is 150. All right. Similarly, you can create how much ever values which you want. For now, double. I'll also take it as a height, right? So here, if I want just the area, I'll go with the area. If I want the volume to also be created, you can also use it, right? So what does the volume say? So the volume will straight actually be volume of the given object will be length breadth into the height also. So the next case is whenever you want to give any of the height, so equal box dot, you can also give the height as in the equal box, it will be as the same. And if you want rectangles, rectangle dot height, right? Give it as, okay, let's say it will be of another 10 some value, right? So I want the volume to be generated only for this. You can go, right? Rectangle dot volume. Okay, this. So you can call this rectangle volume wherever for which you it is required. I don't need the volume for this particular equal box, but I want it for my rectangle object, right? So let's check out. Yeah, so inside the main thing, it is giving me only with the area. The area of a given object is 150, but the volume is 1500. So this is how you use the functionality of the member variables and with respect to the member functions. I guess this will be